We're talking about the rear blade today. I'm going to show you how to use it, and I'm going to tell you why, right here on GP Outdoors. Stick around. When I'm using this rear blade in the winter, I always get very similar and repeated comments from folks. So I'm going to talk about those comments today and my answers to them. As we go through the video, just remember where you live, the type of climate and geography you have, as well as the surface of your driveway, whether it's paved, concrete, gravel, or a lot of dirt and gravel through a forest like I have here, it's going to dictate how you manage and maintain that driveway over the wintertime. I'm going to tell you what I do here and why, and I hope it's helpful for you, especially if you're a new tractor owner. If you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that my primary means of clearing snow in the wintertime is my front mount blower. But because I use that blower all the time on this type of a surface, in these conditions, I need a rear blade. When you're using a blower, you'll know that because of the skid shoes, no matter how low to the ground you put it, you're always going to leave a little something on the table every time you take it down the driveway in these conditions. Maybe not in pavement or concrete, but definitely here I do. No matter how low I set the skid shoes, I'm always going to leave a little bit of a base. And hey, a base is a good thing, especially up here. However, as you start to get through the winter and you're starting to fast approach the end of winter, a big base is not a good thing. If you think about it, every time you go through the driveway, you're leaving that little bit under there, and that starts to build your base. You finish blowing the driveway out, and whether it's with car traffic, snowmobiles, ATVs, etc., you pack that base down on top of the surface, which in this case is very frozen. In fact, several feet deep frozen. Every time you blow, you add a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And as you folks noticed on the last video, I showed you the farm gate and how close to the ground that farm gate is now sitting. That's because that's how much base I've built out over the winter so far. And so long as the temperature stays really cold and negative, that base is not a problem. But as you start to get into this part of the winter up here, especially as you're approaching March, you start to experience very large temperature swings between negative temperatures and positive temperatures. And that's when it's time to start reducing that base or scraping it out of the driveway before it has a chance to melt. As you start getting those big positive temperature swings and sunshine, the snow or the base you have in the driveway here is going to start to melt. First, the snow starts to become what I call sugary. Very, very sugary, slippery. It then turns to slush and then to water. But remember, the ground below it is still frozen, so that water has nowhere to go but to sit in the driveway. So if you have a base that is 4, 5, 6 inches deep that you've been building throughout the winter, and you start to get into warm temperatures, you're going to end up very quickly with an ice rink, which is what I've experienced here over the years before I got the tractor. Said simply, you get a positive 8 or a positive 10 degree day, almost t-shirt weather, that base in the driveway will melt, but remember that snow is an insulator. The ground below it is still frozen. Water sits, and then of course you go back to a negative temperature swing very quickly, and all that water turns to ice. That's why you'll start to see on the channel from about now, right through as we approach and get into March, that I start using the rear blade more and more on the driveway, not just the blower. As we get into those warmer temperatures, I do what I can to scrape down that base as low as possible as we're getting into the thaw season. How do I use it? Let me explain. In the wintertime, I always position the blade such that it's scraping the surface of the driveway and not so much digging. In order to achieve the pitch on the blade that allows me to scrape, I fully retract my upper control arm, pretty much right to the end. If I'd wanted a profile or a more aggressive dig profile or pitch on that blade, I would take this upper control arm and I would extend it outwards. What that does to your blade is when you shorten your upper control arm, it takes the top of the blade and pulls it forward and provides a less aggressive dig angle on the bottom of the mold board. If you extend the upper control arm out, the top of the mold board will extend out and provide a more aggressive dig position or pitch on this blade. I'm not trying to dig gravel out of the driveway or grade the driveway like I would sometimes in the summertime. All I want to do is scrape ice. I don't want to dig down and start digging up gravel, frozen or not. So I'd be a little remiss if I didn't explain that a little further for you. The reason why is I have mentioned it a few times over the last few winters, and every time I do, I get similar comments from a few folks. Always respectful and helpful because people are trying to be helpful. But there's always a couple of comments where somebody says, GP, you got that backwards. If you extend the control arm out, it makes it less aggressive. If you bring it in and shorten it, it makes it more aggressive. That might be true if you're operating different types of equipment with a different setup or a different type of blade design or engineering. So if you have a blade that has a similar design to what you see here on the back of your compact tractor, I can assure you I've accurately explained how to properly position the blade. Not only from experience over the last 3 years using it both in the winter as well as grading in the summer, but if you've got a Land Pride blade, take a look in the manual. Right around the middle of the manual, there's a section on how to use the blade, and it explains it exactly as I just did. just about done. Bladed both sides into the middle. And then I'll see you on the next video. We're going to do a little bit of night blowing. A lot of folks have asked how bright these lights are. So they've asked if I'd do a little snow removal at night. So I'll see you back on the next one. Have a wonderful week with your families. A safe week. Please be kind to one another. And I'll see you tonight. Cheers.